Continues to revolutionize its line of products to create an exceptionally comfortable sleep experience, one night at a time. Get $50 off select mattresses by visiting Casper.com/campfire and using the promo code campfire at checkout. Thanks, Casper. The Campfire is also brought to you by the Campfire Cruise. Join me in the summer of 2018 on a cruise to the Bahamas full of ghost stories, a live campfire show recording, and a lot more fun. Get the details at campfirecruise.com. That is campfirecruise.com. Check it out today. And thanks, Holiday Maker Travel.
Welcome to our gathering tonight. Here we share stories of ordinary people who have experienced extraordinary things. Sit back, relax, and warm yourself by Jim Harold's Campfire.
Welcome to the Campfire. I am Jim Harold, and so glad to be with you once again. And we have a fantastic show for you. If you are new to the Campfire, what we do here is we don't pretty things up. We don't go on and on incessantly about how our week was and those kind of things. We get right to the ghost stories and spooky stories, UFO stories, cryptid stories. Some stories are scary and some are extremely touching. And the one that we're going to have right after this is one of those. One of the most memorable stories in the history of Campfire since 2009, right after this.
iPhone and iPad users, help us keep the Campfire at the top of the charts. Go into your Apple Podcasts app right now and hit subscribe. We appreciate it. Now on to the show.
Next up on the Campfire is Felicia from California. She had a neat story. She said that her son wanted to hear ghost stories, and she got tired of reading them, and she found the Campfire podcast, and they've enjoyed it on road trips and so forth, and they still listen when they get in the car. So, Felicia, we thank you and your son, and I'd like to say hello to your son. So, hello, thank you for listening. And you have an interesting story about a dream. Tell us what happened, and welcome to the program.
Hi. Well, I had a visitation dream. This was probably about, I'd say like 20 years ago, 20 plus maybe. I used to work at an elementary school as I started off doing like after-school daycare and substitute teaching, and I was also a teacher's aide. So I got to know this group of fourth graders really, really well, and, you know, we were very, very close. Well, the following year, they went up to fifth grade, and I was still doing after-school daycare and all that stuff with them, as well as some other students. And it was in October. I just remembered coming to work one day, and there was a note. This is how I found out it was horrible, that one of the students had died in a fire.
Oh.
And I was devastated because I had just seen him the day before. Like, we were playing around, and, you know, we would play games after school and put on little dance parties and dance shows and stuff. And he was, you know, I just saw him the night before, so I was devastated, and I couldn't believe it. I thought it was just a mean joke, somebody, you know, and it was just a horrible way to find out the note in my box. So I was devastated. I went home, and I was just crying. I couldn't stop crying. It was on the news because his house had burned down. It was on the news, and I couldn't handle crying, and it was just awful. Well, that night I went to sleep, and it was so hard for me to sleep because I was just so devastated. But when I fell asleep, I had this really, really, really vivid dream. It was so real. He came to me in the dream. I'm sorry, I might get a little choked up because it's still emotional.
Sure.
But he came to me in the dream, and he said, I'm right here. And I said, what are you doing here? You're dead. We're at your funeral. In my dream, we were at his funeral.
Oh.
And I said, why are you here? You're gone. And he said, I just came to tell you, I wanted to come and tell you that I'm okay. And he's like, I just want you to let you know that you can stop crying. I'm still crying today. But he's like, it's okay. I'm okay. And I was like so thankful. And he said, I didn't get burned in the fire. I wanted you to know that I'm okay. I didn't get burned. The only thing that got burned was my hand. And he said, I'm okay. I just want you to know that. And then I woke up, but it was so real. So then later on that week, I ended up going to his wake and his funeral. And I didn't know any details about the fire. I just knew that his house had caught on fire.
Right.
And he had died with his father. His father had also died in the fire.
Oh.
And so when I went to, I know it's devastating, and he was only 10 years old. It was horrible. So when I went to not the funeral, but the wake the night before the funeral, they had like a viewing, and his casket was open. His father's was closed. And I didn't know exactly what had happened, but apparently I think his dad had been smoking and, fell asleep in the front room with the cigarette, lit the house on fire. He had a closed casket, but this little boy, his name was Rex, his casket was open, and I was confused, like, he looks fine. Why, what happened? And so one of my fellow coworkers had explained to me what happened was he had died of smoke inhalation.
Right.
And they found, by the time the fire department was able to rescue him, he was at the back door trying to get out and couldn't get out, and his hand was the only thing that was burned because he grabbed onto the door handle trying to open the back door, and the doorknob burnt his hand.
Oh.
It was exactly like he told me in my dream. And there's no way, I didn't know that. I had no idea. So to me, that was just confirmation that wasn't a dream. That was really Rex. He really came to visit me. So, it was really, I was just shocked. And they said the firefighters did try to resuscitate him, but he passed from smoke inhalation.
Well, I got to tell you something. That's chilling and so sad, but a remarkable story. And I want you to take this in the right way because I absolutely believe this. But when you talk about the skeptics, there are two explanations for your story. Now, I'm going to tell you, I believe the second one. Number one, you're making it up. Or number two, it's absolutely true. I believe it's absolutely true because the skeptics, how else can you explain this? But this boy, because of the bond you had forged with him, wanted to come back and let you know that. This is absolutely, to me, this is proof. This is proof that we live beyond and we can communicate, and people can communicate when they have an important reason to communicate. And this, to me, is proof of it. Either that or you're not telling the truth, and you absolutely, I believe, are telling the truth. I mean, it's just an amazing story.
Truth. There's no way.
Right, exactly.
There's no reason to make something up like this up. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it made me feel better, though. Like, when I woke up, I felt better. Of course, I was still sad, and to this day, I still get sad thinking that he's gone. But I did feel better and when I woke up. And then when I went to his wake, and they told me what had happened, I was just amazed, and I felt even more better, because I felt like, oh, then it's true. He is okay, So... Right. Yeah, it was a really interesting experience. I haven't told that many people. I didn't tell anybody at work. I've told my husband and my family.
Well,
but
thank you. Thank you for having the courage to come on the show and share your story with the audience and with me. I appreciate it. And, it's one of those things where it's a horrible thing, and goodness knows we wish it never would have happened. But there is a certain assurance knowing that this child came back to let you know he's okay. And like you said, that tells you that he is okay and he is somewhere and he's happy. And
exactly.
Wow.
What? I had one more visitation.
Sure, please tell us.
Dream, but it was really short.
Please tell us.
So a couple of years ago, I had my appendix burst, and I almost didn't make it. I made it to the hospital just in time. They had to take out my appendix and about 3 inches of my large intestine, and they said I was very lucky that I came in when I did. And so, when I was recovering, I was in the hospital for 5 days, and at one point I was asleep, and I had another very vivid visitation dream, and it was my grandmother, and she was just standing in the room by the window. And when I saw her, I got scared because I knew she had already passed on. And so I thought, oh no, she's coming to get me and bring me to the other side. So I got really scared, and I told myself, wake up. And I woke up like the snap of a finger. I just woke up as soon as I told myself to wake up, and she was gone. And then I told my family, my parents, and they said, well, why did you tell yourself to wake up? I said, I was so scared. I thought she was coming to take me to the other side because, they say when it's your time, your family members come get you.
Right.
And I said I was so scared, and they were laughing. They said, sweetie, she wasn't there to come get you and bring you to the other side. She's probably just checking up on you to make sure you were okay. And now I feel bad because it's like, her one time she visited me and I shooed her away. So that's my second visitation dream. But those are the only two I've had, and I guess that's a good thing.
Well, I got to tell you, it's very touching, and obviously one other thing I want to say, you must have made quite an impression on that young boy Rex. You must have really made an impression on that. He'd want to come back and tell you. So you're to be congratulated in a way for that, because it's not, a lot of people work with kids, and some of them are great, and maybe some of them are not so great, and you're obviously one of the great ones. Thank you so much, Alicia, for being on the campfire today.
Thank you. Thank you for calling.
Britlin's on the line. She's been listening for a few months. Her brother, Cole, told her about the show. So first, thank you, Cole, and thank you for listening and telling Britlin. And then secondly, hey, that's what you guys need to do. Follow Cole's example and tell people about the show. Now, Britlin is from Illinois. She has a story about when she was 10 years old. We'll let her tell you the rest. Britlin, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. And tell us your campfire story.
Thank you so much for having me, Jim. Anyway, there's a couple instances that have happened. The first one happened, like you said, I was about 10 years old. My little sister was about 3 at the time, and we were all sitting around the kitchen table, eating supper, just talking about our days. It was me, my dad, my stepmom, my stepbrother, and then our 3-year-old little sister. And, like I said, just talking about our days, and all of a sudden she just looks up at the ceiling, starts kind of having a conversation, or, 3-year-old jibber-jabber, smiling and waving, and we all just kind of look around at each other and brush it off to a 3-year-old being silly at supper time. Well, a few weeks later on, my stepmom was on another floor of the house doing laundry, and my dad wasn't home, and my stepbrother was at his father's house, so it was just me and my sister. We were sitting on the couch. It was around Christmas time. We were watching TV, and she smiled up, and once again, in her 3-year-old jibber-jabber in the corner of our living room, and is just having like a conversation, and it just kind of caught me off guard, and I said, "Sis, what are you doing?" And she immediately clammed herself up and wouldn't talk to me. She wouldn't look in the corner of the room. She just kind of covered her face, and it just kind of caught me off guard. I was really kind of scared, and my stepmom comes upstairs. She said, "What's wrong with her?" And I told her what happened, and she wouldn't talk to her. She wouldn't tell her what was going on. Finally, my dad comes home, and he's, "Sis, what's going on?" And she finally talks to him, and she said, "The man in the picture was smiling at me." And we all just kind of looked around, because the man in the picture that she was referring to was actually my uncle, who passed away before I was even born.
Oh,
so mind
boy.
you, I hadn't even met him. let alone, my 3-year-old sister. And I mean, she's 3 years old, so she doesn't have a concept of, what death is, what, angels are, what ghosts are, anything like that. So that was really justification. And another, my dad said that any story he's ever told or ever heard anybody tell a story of my uncle is he was the clown, he was the comedian, he was always joking. So to say that, she said that he was making funny faces at her was really,
it fit.
Justification.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's a very neat story. You mentioned you had another story. Would you like to share it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it was maybe about a year or so ago, I actually went to see a medium, and she, whenever you go see her, you sit outside, like on a porch step almost. But it was in the middle of summer. It was real hot outside, like a heat index of like 102. So usually when it's that hot, she'll sit in your vehicle with you. And I had taken one of my friends with me, and while we're sitting there waiting on her, I'm like, I'm going to take all these pictures out of my car. I had some, pictures of family pictures, and I had like a guardian angel clip in my car. I took everything down, hid it in my center console, and I disconnected my phone from my Bluetooth on my radio so, somebody wouldn't call and it would show across, And I said, I'm just going to go ahead and turn the radio off too. So I turned the radio off, and me and my friend were going about our conversation, and the radio came back on. And I said, I just shut this off. Why is it back on? So I shut it off, and we, went back our conversation, and next thing I know, it's back on. And I said, okay, something's going on. I just shut this off, and it was really starting to irritate me. So I shut it off, and about that time, she pulls up, and she gets in my car, and we're going about our conversation, talking to each other, and she stops in the middle of a sentence, and she said, "You brought a man with you today." I said, "Oh, I have." And she said, "Yeah, and he really likes to play jokes on you, particularly messing with your radio." And her and I just stopped and stared at each other, me and my friend, and we couldn't say anything. We were in disbelief. So, I mean, for her to say that was really just crazy.
No, that's great. Those are fantastic stories. Well, thank you so much for listening, and thank Cole again for telling you about the show, and we appreciate you being a part of the Campfire.
Thank you so much, Jim.
This episode of Jim Harold's Campfire is brought to you by Casper. Casper is a sleep brand that continues to revolutionize its line of products to create an exceptionally comfortable sleep experience one night at a time. Casper's mattresses are designed by humans for humans. The original Casper mattress combines multiple supportive memory foams for a quality sleep surface with just the right sink and just the right bounce. Their breathable design helps you sleep cool and regulate your body temperature through the night. And they're not just a mattress company. Casper also offers a wide array of products to ensure an overall better sleep experience. Now, we love our Casper. It's fantastic. And the original mattress that we have, excellent. Absolutely love it. And I know that you will love the Casper experience as well. Not only is it a great experience, it's an easy experience. You can order online. It's delivered right to your door in a compact box. Free shipping and free returns to the U.S. and Canada. And best of all, I love this, risk-free 100-day trial. You get to try the mattress in your home for 100 days with no risk. Considering we spend 1/3 of our lives on a mattress, it's so important to truly sleep on a mattress before committing. That's why Casper gives you 100 nights to try it out. Again, when we got it, it was just amazing. You get this box. How is this possible? You open it up. It expands. We sleep better. It's just great. I absolutely love Casper. Get $50 towards select mattresses by visiting casper.com/campfire and use the promo code campfire at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Remember, that's $50 towards select mattresses by visiting casper.com/campfire and using the promo code campfire at checkout. Please do support them. They have supported us for years and also supported us in sleeping. in two ways. They're just great. Again, Casper.com/campfire. Use that promo code campfire at checkout for $50 towards select mattresses. Thanks, Casper.
Now back to Jim Harold's Campfire.
Next up on the campfire is a brand new listener from Pennsylvania, and she is going to tell us a story, well, about one of those old standbys. It always brings a chill, particularly this time of the year, the Ouija board. Kathy, welcome to the program. I know listeners, so welcome, and thank you for signing up to tell your story, and please tell us your Ouija board experience.
Hi, well, thank you for having me. So, I was at my cousin's house, and I live in Pennsylvania. He was living in Illinois at the time. And most of his friends I had not met at the time. So, he had a girlfriend. I had just met her, and for whatever reason, he always has random things in his house. And for whatever reason, he had a Ouija board sitting, it was either like somewhere near the kitchen or on the kitchen table. So somehow it ends up on the kitchen table, and I've always been afraid of Ouija boards, but for some reason, something compelled me to want to use it at that moment. And it was during the day, and he was in the other room. And so I was in the kitchen with his girlfriend. And like I said, I had just met this person. You know, I don't even remember their name now. So they knew nothing about me. And so I suggested that we both use it, and she was okay with it. So I remember we were hardly touching the, what is it called? The eye that you use
the planchette
to go. Yeah, we were hardly, I was like barely touching it. And I wanted to test it. So I decided to just ask the question within my own head and not out loud. And I asked, sorry, I'm kind of drawing a blank. I'm a little nervous.
No, don't be nervous. Go ahead.
So I remember asking, like, is anyone there or anything? And it went to either Y or the whole word yes. And then I decided, all of these questions I asked in my head, I didn't ask out loud. And even if I would have, this person didn't know anything about me. And so then I asked, do you know or have you seen my grandmother? And she had, this was 2008. And she had passed away in 2001. And I asked, do you know my grandmother? And it said yes. And again, I was, barely touching the piece that goes around the board. And so then I asked, and, I kept saying to the other person, I was like, stop moving it. And they were like, I'm not moving it. It's not me. And so then I asked in my head, what does her name start with? And her name was Doris, and it went to the letter D. And then, I really started getting freaked out. So then I asked in my head, how did she die? And it started spelling out the word cancer, and that's how she died. But, before it could spell the whole thing, I ended it, and I was so freaked out. Like, I get freaked out just thinking about that.
Sure.
And then my cousin comes in and he's like, well, you can't just end it like that. You can't just leave it hanging. You have to like say goodbye. And so, I did that because I was afraid of like, not ending it correctly. But then he said, unbeknownst to me, that there was a cemetery nearby. So, and that was my first time being, this was a new apartment he had that I had never been to. So I didn't even know that.
Now,
so
I mean, obviously it sounds like you have no interest in the Ouija board at this point.
No, I will never use one again after that.
But it sounds like you do have an interest in the supernatural and the idea that we can communicate by listening to shows like this. So I mean, how has it changed your thoughts about the paranormal?
I definitely believe in it. And I mean, I've had other instances of things happening that are unexplainable. So I used the Ouija board, when I was a kid in high school, and, we would just freak ourselves out, and, nothing ever really happened, but not like that. So after that, I'm, totally terrified. I will never use one again.
Well, I can't say that I blame you. Kathy, thank you so much for sharing your story and being a part of the campfire, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Danny's on the line, and he's been listening for a couple of months. He's from Alabama, and he got my attention with this one. He said he has a story about the jealous ghost of a little boy. So I can't wait to hear it. Danny, welcome to the program as a listener and a storyteller, and tell us what about this jealous ghost.
Hey, thanks for having me. So yeah, I was maybe 14, 15 years old. We had just recently moved into this new house, and in the process of moving, being in high school, I want to say it was around October. Halloween was starting to be in the air, so kids at school, we was all picking and playing, talking about ghost stories.
Right.
And I happened to go to school with the girl whose family we bought the house from. And she began to tell me about a little boy that was supposedly beat to death by his father in the home. Well, with it being Halloween, obviously I laughed it off. Also being a teenager with front of little girls, was not going to show that I was afraid of anything.
Okay.
So, just played it off. Got, like I said, when we moved into the house, and I did start noticing things. My bedroom door would open by itself, and I would stay up till midnight or later playing video games growing up, and my door would open, and I would play it off as air conditioners kicking on, things of that nature, and possibly being the suction coming
Right.
from that. Not that I have ever seen that open the door all the way up, but that's the story I went with in my head. Well, things got a little stranger. I would get up at night, like I said, playing video games, get thirsty, get hungry, go to the kitchen. There always felt like somebody was at the end of the hallway watching me. And I would literally get up out of my room, hold my head down as far as I could to make my way to the kitchen. That way, I always felt like I was going to make eye contact with someone.
Oh, boy.
And it was one of the creepiest feelings in the world. Well, things continued on. That kind of stuff continued to happen. My mother come in there one night and woke me up and asked me if I had been in her bedroom calling her name. Or calling her, Mom.
Right.
I told her no, obviously I was not in the bedroom. You just woke me up. I have zero history of sleepwalking. That kind of thing continued on as well. Well, she finally told me one night that she would feel like somebody was in the corner of her bedroom whispering, "Mom."
Oh, boy.
And she woke up one night and I'm trying to think of the right word. Is it called a raspberry where you kind of put your tongue between your lips and blood?
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah. She woke up one night with that happening in her face.
Oh, man.
Well, that's, creepy.
Yeah, I would say it is, Danny. I would say that would qualify as creepy.
And I've had plenty of experiences. I've always been a firm believer in the supernatural and the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, I woke up one night to a burning sensation across my face. And I jumped out of bed, run to the bathroom, because it felt like somebody had literally just slapped me across the face. So I walk into the bathroom, turn the light on, and I have a red mark across my face and scratches up and down my arms.
Oh, my. Oh, my.
And the scratches weren't really deep scratches, but enough just to have a little bit of blood.
Yeah.
Kind of show up. I immediately go in there and wake my mother up and tell her, hey, look, I have no explanation for this. I'm a pretty heavy sleeper. I do toss and turn. I do not, however, scratch myself, and I do not slap myself in my sleep.
That's weird.
There was zero explanation for this. I go back to school, and I actually talked to the girl that had originally told me the story. And she said that, that's just the story that she had always been told, was that the little boy had no mother, and he had a very abusive father,
mm-hmm.
and that the abuse got out of control, and he lost his life.
Hmm.
So in the process of all this, it kind of felt like he was jealous of me. Like maybe I had something he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like he liked to mess with me, but he also liked to get the attention of my mom.
Oh.
So he would do playful things with my mother. She would hang clothes up, and he would make the clothes hangers shake back and forth, and she would ask it to stop, and he would stop. It come across like he was very respectful of my mother. Me, on the other hand, he had no use for.
Interesting.
One of the final things that happened before we eventually moved, I was in my bedroom, and the glass light fixture that on the light on the ceiling, if you know what I'm talking about, it's like the little square glass.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Fixture.
Yep.
Yeah. It fell and busted across my head as I was laying in bed. I got taken to the emergency room that night to make sure I had no glass in my eyes. Make sure everything was okay. We got back to the house. They checked the screw that held everything in there together, and there was no reason for this to have fallen. And it felt like it was another personal attack against me.
Like it wanted to fall on you.
Yes, so like it intentionally done that. I don't know if it was trying to prove a point or if it was trying to run me off. Like I said, it come across like this ghost was very, very jealous of what I had.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe because I had something that he didn't have at that point in his life. We initially moved. We actually sold the home to some family friends with fair warning of what was happening. And it wasn't but a couple weeks later, and they come over to visit and told us, whatever's in this house, you were completely right. It has not stopped messing with us since we moved in. It liked to tickle the husband's feet at night. They had a little girl. Never seemed to bother her. Never anything ever really happened to her. I don't know if it was because I was a boy and maybe he was as well, or what the situation was, but it did not like me. And it wasn't very long, and then our family friends decided that they no longer wanted to live there either.
I hear that as a theme. When you have a house like this, people move into it and people will be, and I applaud you, and I think it's even a law these days, if you sell a house and it has some kind of haunting, you're supposed to disclose it. I'm not a lawyer, but I'd heard that at least in some municipalities it's kind of required, and certainly ethically I think it's required. And people say, no big, they move in, and it's like, then they're moving out.
It's definitely I feel like it should be something that people should be aware of before they move into a home. If I'm not mistaken, anytime there's been a murder or anything in a home, it's supposed to be disclosed to whoever's buying it. I'm pretty sure that has if that's right, it doesn't stay that way after a certain period of time. I'm sure it.
Yeah, I mean, if it happened 50 years ago, the person selling it might not even know about it, but I think so. So they decided to move. They thought that was enough for them, and they were ready to go.
Once doors started opening and shutting, and the feet started being tickled and things of that nature, which he seemed very playful with them, it was still something that they did not want any part of.
Can't say I blame him, and I don't blame you for getting out of there either. So very interesting. I've heard of a lot of different things. I think maybe we have had maybe a time or two a jealous ghost, but this is one of the most striking ones where they actually tried to get you hit by a light fixture.
and like I said, I've had plenty of paranormal experiences in my life, but I've never been attacked. That was the one and only time that's ever happened to me.
Well, I'll tell you, I hope it doesn't happen again, because that would kind of freak me out when they start laying booby traps for me. That's kind of where I draw the line. Well, Danny, thank you so much for joining us tonight on The Campfire. I appreciate it, and thank you for telling your story.
Hey, thank you so much, and I love your show and look forward to hearing more of it.
The Campfire is brought to you by the Campfire Cruise. Join me in the summer of 2018, this summer, on a cruise full of ghost stories, a live campfire podcast recording, and a whole lot of fun. And you can get all the details at campfirecruise.com. That's campfirecruise.com. Now, in November, we just had our Mysteries cruise, and I got to tell you, that was so much fun. And I think what was the most fun, I loved recording live podcasts, and maybe you heard those, and that was a lot of fun. And then also just sitting around with the other cruisers, the listeners, and talking to them about their own personal stories of the strange and paranormal topics and all of that. It was just so much fun. And then you layer on top of that the fun of a cruise. Now, this is going to be July 30th to August 3rd, 2018 on the Mariner of the Seas. And we're going to be sailing to the Bahamas. And they're actually redoing Mariner of the Seas, Royal Caribbean. So it is so cool. We're going to be on a boat that's not technically new, but it's going to be like new because they're going to redo the whole thing just, I think, a month or two before we actually sail. So that is going to be great. And we're going to have an excursion, a shore excursion at Nassau. And that was so much fun. At the Mysteries Cruise, actually, for that, we went to the Dominican Republic, and the fellowship and the meal and the good time that I had with the other cruisers. And the thing about being with these cruisers now, when I see them pop up in my timeline, hey, Irene, hey, Brianna, hi, Jeff, it's one of those cases where it's really they're friends now. They're not listeners, they're friends. And it was just really great. And I think that that's something that I'm going to remember and it's going to stick with me a long, long time. So I'm sure in these cold winter months, we're having this big cold spell through most of the year. You're thinking, what am I going to do this summer? What am I going to have for my vacation? Why not consider the Campfire Cruise? Now, I'd love to meet you. They're going to keep the size of the group small, so it can be very intimate. I will be having dinner with the various cruisers. I'll be rotating through tables every night, so we'll get to talk with each other. And that was really a great part of the Mysteries Cruise. I enjoyed it, and I think the Campfire Cruise is even going to be more fun. So, again, July 30th to August 3rd, 2018, the Mariner of the Seas, and we're going to sail to the Bahamas. We're going to do a live podcast recording. We're going to have sessions, presentations, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. And now you can save $50 per person. So check it out, campfirecruise.com, campfirecruise.com. I hope to see you there. The great people at Holiday Maker Travel are making this possible, and we thank Mike and Wendy over there. And also, I just encourage you to go to campfirecruise.com, because now is the time to reserve your cabin, and now is the time to make your plans for your summer vacation. Why not go on something truly unique, something like a Campfire Cruise? Campfirecruise.com. We thank you so much, and we thank Holiday Maker Travel. I hope you'll join me and we'll sail away.
Get spooky stories automatically delivered to your email inbox with Jim's Inbox Campfire newsletter. Sign up today at jimharold.com/newsletter. It's free. Now back to Jim Harold's Campfire.
Matt's been listening for about a year and a half or so. He's calling us from the great state of Minnesota, and we love stories about beloved pets. And Matt has a story about a special dog and something that happened that I think had to be quite comforting. Matt, welcome to the program, and please tell us what happened.
Thanks, Jim. Well, kind of to preface this story a little bit, I remember in your, I want to say, first week of July, your Campfire podcast, you had somebody on there named John who called in about his experience with his dog, and he had this meditation experience where he connected with his dog, and
right.
I just thought it was like the coolest story, and it really, made me feel really good. And 2 weeks later, my dog died, and it was kind of, that story just kind of made me want to call in after what I experienced. So, my dog's death was pretty unexpected, and it kind of took me and my parents for a loop, and I'm sure many people out there, and even yourself, have dealt with that. So
sure,
it was a new experience for me to lose a dog. So it was kind of, and he was like my dog, so it was pretty hard. But so the Sunday after he died, my mom and I were kind of sitting out on the porch and talking, and she was on the phone with my aunt who had lost a cat a couple years ago. My aunt was kind of telling my mom about, signs that she saw from her cat, and right before they hung up, my aunt was like, I even saw the cat in the clouds one day, and we were kind of like, that's pretty crazy. And at that moment, Jim, I swear to you that we saw this one cloud roll in, and it's kind of, it's hard for me to talk about this just because anybody can see images in clouds if you look long enough,
Right,
and
right.
Everybody's seen that, and sometimes you can make out anything if you look long enough. And so we saw this one cloud roll, and it kind of resembled my dog, and we were taking pictures, and we were like, yeah, we can make up this thing and make up his face here and there. And then we were kind of inspecting that photo for a bit, and then I looked up again, and I saw this one cloud. It was kind of more of a wispy cloud, and it didn't look like anything at first. And then the more I looked at it, it formed exactly into a portrait of my dog. And it wasn't just an abstract cloud. It was the most detailed thing I've ever seen in my life. And it was it was crazy. You know, it's hard. I feel crazy even talking about it because it's just talking about clouds, you know, and it looked just like him. It looked like he was young and healthy, and he was kind of curled up, and you could see his tail, his legs, his back, and I don't know. It gives me the chills even talking about it, because it wasn't just me seeing it; it was my mom seeing it, and it's not only just one cloud. And then about 10 minutes later, we kind of looked at other clouds, and there was almost like portraits of him and scattered around in different stages of his life, and it was it was such a strange experience, and definitely a comforting experience because it was such a tragic loss, and it kind of challenged my belief system in a way, because I was raised Christian, and I've always challenged not myself, but just I've had a challenge in my life, just, you know, believing in God and that kind of stuff, and I've never had an experience to really reaffirm that in my life. And I'm not saying this has like changed everything for me, but it's definitely given me hope that, you know, there is a God, and this definitely has given me that reassurance in my life. So yeah, I mean, I gotta tell you, it was the most detailed thing I've ever seen, and I have pictures on my phone I look at every day, and it's definitely a comforting thing in my life right now. So,
well, first of all, great story, and I'm sorry for your loss. And people think, well, it was just a pet, but if you have a pet for a long time, a dog, a cat, whatever it might be, you know, that becomes a member of the family, and it can be like, you know, it is literally losing a member of the family. We've been through it. Probably most of the people listening have been through it who've had a pet, and it's a tough thing. And the thing is I think there's an old quote, and it goes something along the lines of, you know, it's easy to be the critic, but it's difficult to be the man or woman in the arena. You know, the one that that gets the sweat on their face. In other words, it's easy to say, if you don't experience, well, you're just seeing things in the clouds. Those are just patterns. But many people I've heard who are good people but have counted themselves as skeptics have had an experience and say, you know, I know what I saw. And what I saw wasn't just, you know, swamp gas if it's a UFO, or not just a mist if it's a ghost, or in this case, not just a passing cloud, but something very detailed. And I'll let you know, we have had people on the show previously, years ago, talk about very detailed things in clouds, much more detailed than you might think. And so I have heard stories about that. Now, if you feel comfortable with this, one thing you could do sometime, if you're up for it, is post those pictures on our virtual campfire Facebook group after this goes live, if you want to. If you want to, people, you certainly don't have to, because it might be very private and you may not want to do that. But certainly something that's there for you.
Yeah, if there's one group of people I want to share this with, definitely your group. So, and I'm reading this Afterlife, Science from Pets in the Afterlife, and then has this section about cloud formations in it. One of the things that really makes clear, it says it considered a divine announcement. So that kind of has me pretty comforted right now. So
That's great. Well, Matt, thank you so much. I appreciate you being a part of the campfire, and I'm glad that this provided, seeing that image, seeing that cloud, provided some closure and some comfort for you on the loss of a beloved pet.
Thank you very much, Jim. I'm a big fan of the show.
Mary is on the line from California, and she has a story, something very interesting that happened when she was just a little girl. Mary, welcome to the program, and tell us what happened.
Thank you very much for having me. Well, I was a little girl, and it was around probably the late 1960s is what I can guess. And it was about the time where they had the Black Panthers and Charlie Manson and things like that. My mom was a single woman living, you know, with 2 children. So she would always put us in her bedroom, and she would put the dresser against the door, then the bed against the dresser. And every night it was the same thing. So one night she woke me up and she said, listen, listen, listen. And I'm like, what, Mom? And I'm just a little girl. I mean, I'm thinking maybe 8, 7, something like that. On her bedroom door, you hear this knock, knock, knock. And I'm going like, what is that? What is that? She says, call the police, call the police. And I'm just a little girl, and she's a grown woman. She's telling me to call the police. So I'm listening to it. I'm hoping it's going to go away. And then on the bedroom door, knock, knock, knock. And so at the time, you dial 0, and then you get the operator, and then you call the police. Well, I went back to sleep. I heard it a few more times. I went back to sleep. And then I hear this knocking on the window outside the bedroom, and then police, open up, and it's still dark, and I'm not afraid to. I'm not old big enough to move everybody, and my mom's still asleep, so I just opened up the window and I said, they're gone now. But to this day, I don't know what that is, and I never knew what that is. But like I said, in hearing different stories of different people, when you hear 3 knocks, it's not a good thing. When you hear those 3 knocks. So that's my story. I have another one that just happened to me recently.
Okay.
Happened about a year or so ago. I had a boyfriend when I was a little girl. I was about 14 to 16. We were dating for about 2 years, and his name was Shannon. And I've been married and with my husband for over 30 years now. Well, one night he came to me in a dream, and he said, I'm going to be okay. And I thought, what the heck? This is, 3 decades ago, and you're coming to me in my dreams, and you're telling me you're going to be okay? So later on that day, I'm going about my walks and such, and I keep seeing him out of the corner of my eye. So I came back into the office and I Googled his name. He had died back in 2006 on the same day, September 6th, that he came to me. And I was like, and I just why did you do that? Why did you do that? That, you kind of think you're kind of kindred spirits or something, So that was something, and then I had one that happened to me just recently.
Okay.
We have a local restaurant, and I went to go use the ladies' room, and the door was locked. So I'm waiting, and nothing's happening. And then I hear a little kid singing, na 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 na, and then I knock on the door to let them know, that I'm out here, and it goes like this. He says, "I'm in here." And I go, okay. So I'm waiting. And then I looked at my husband because he's like, what are you doing? And I said, somebody's in there. You're doing the hand gestures and such. So I knock on the door, and then there's nothing. And then I turn the doorknob, and the door opens, and there's nobody in there. And I thought, this is crazy. So I took care of my business, went down, sat at the table, and I told the waiter when he came to us, I says, you have a ghost in here, don't you? He says, yeah, it's a little boy. He hides over there. And it's like I had an encounter. The little boy was in the bathroom singing, and he let me know that he was in there. He was playing. And then when I was just kind of jokingly saying it to the waiter, and he says, no, he sits over there, and he hides behind the booth, and he plays peekaboo sometimes. Sometimes he turns the lights off on us, and it's funny. It was really cute. But those are my stories.
Well, Mary, thank you so much for being a part of the campfire.
Well, thank you very much for having the campfire, and thank you for keeping me entertained, and thank you for everybody else for calling in and telling me their stories. I really do enjoy listening.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed that edition of the campfire. My goodness, what a variety of stories. And that's the thing that constantly amazes me. We have scary stories, we have sweet stories, we have poignant stories, but most of all, they're very meaningful to the experiencers, and we're so glad that they're kind enough to share them with us. And we hope that you will share some more time with us next week on the campfire, and tell a friend. We thank you so much. We'll talk to you next time, and as always, stay spooky. Bye-bye, everybody.
You've been listening to Jim Harold's Campfire. Tune in again next time for more stories of ordinary people who have experienced extraordinary things.